to hear from you.
Well, let me turn my videos on. There we go.
Okay. There we go. How you doing, Kirk?
Good. How you?
Good. And I want to thank, before we get started, I want to say thank you for taking the time out of your incredibly busy schedule to do this. I really appreciate it, Kirk.
Well, it has lightened up a little bit. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I kind of imagine so. So my first question, which I asked all the actors before, is when did you discover your passion for acting overall? Like you just love doing being make believe being like somebody else for a living and then say, I want to do this for a living, you know?
I mean, I was kind of as long as I can remember. I mean, from the time when the parents pulled out the 8 millimeter movie camera, I leapt in front of it and performed, and everybody said, "Oh, you should be an actor." So it was always in my head. I mean, I was like all little kid. I want to be a fireman and a baseball player and all those things. But I, you know, as I grew up, through grade school doing little plays, and getting the leads in plays, and then, in junior high, high school, I was always acting. So it's kind of always been there.
Yeah, I definitely say you definitely got a natural talent for the art of acting. And going forward, I've been doing like a lot of research and I've been knowing about you, your career wise. And I think you're from Washington State area, right?
From Oregon.
Oregon, yeah, Portland, Oregon. Sorry about that.
Yeah, and then I mean, I did go to school in Seattle. I went to acting school in Seattle.
Okay. Mm.
But
Yeah, that
yeah,
makes
I was
yeah,
actually
that's pretty. Sorry.
California, born in California, moved up to Oregon when I was young, and then
Mhm.
yeah, went to school Seattle, then went to New York, then came to LA.
Ooh, the transition. What made you before you hit to LA and what made you go all the way to New York?
Um, I was in uh when I was in Seattle, I was at the University of Washington. It was an acting school, nothing but
Mhm.
acting. We were from
Right.
9 in the morning to 11 at night. We were acting,
Hmm.
and my teacher, there were a number of teachers, but the main man, Robert Hobbs, just instilled in us that you're not an actor unless you go to New York. And so, I was just driven to go to New York, and yeah, I went there, spent about 7 years, and then came.
Hmm. And came to LA. And then going to LA, being an actor for this many years and whatnot, when did you discover voiceover? Like, hey, this is like an alternative in case if I don't get any kind of on-camera work and whatnot. So what made you like dive specifically for voiceover work, you know?
It was pure luck.
Oh,
Uh,
yeah.
I I went to the dry cleaner one day, and as I was coming out, I ran into an actor that I'd worked with at the Oregon Shakespeare Festival,
Tom
and
Weiner?
Tom Weiner.
Cool.
And
Yeah.
Tom said, "Hey, you want to do cartoons?" And he was doing anime at the time, and I said, "Yeah." And he brought me in to see if I was okay at it, and the first cue he threw in front of me, I nailed it on one take, which is very difficult because there were no beeps, no nothing. You just had to chase the time code. And so, yeah, I got lucky,
Mhm.
and so, yeah, he started using me. Then other people started using me, and I transitioned away from on camera. Um, my on camera, I was not getting the roles I wanted on camera, whereas
Right.
voiceover, I was getting these juicy roles, and
Yes, you did.
they were more suited for my style of acting. My style of acting had always been a little broad, a little wacky,
Yeah.
and that
Mhm.
didn't translate as well to the camera. So,
Exactly.
and just the business of pursuing an on-camera acting career is a real pain in the butt.
Oof. Yeah, because as you know, well, you know a lot better than I do. They actually look a certain way. You got that certain sparkle and whatnot. Especially, it's a huge process just to audition for on camera work, such as film, TV, etc. And I believe you did some stage work too along your acting career too, right?
Oh yeah, I did tons of stage work. That's what I wanted to do. I never thought it was my wife's idea to come to LA and pursue film and TV.
Hmm.
I said, "Oh, okay, hon." And I would have been happy doing stage work the rest of my life. The problem with stage work is it's very difficult to have a family,
Ooh.
because you kind of got to go. It's very difficult to find a theater in one town that can support you. You kind of got to go around to different towns, and that's very difficult.
Yeah, I definitely understand that. I have a buddy, a close buddy since I know since we're like in diapers. He's a theater actor too, so it's hard for him like to have a personal life. Unfortunately, he is happily married, but like at times his wife was understanding because that's how he met through the theater program that he was with a few years ago. So he told me it's definitely rough. You got to make some sacrifices just to aim of where you're going in your acting career.
Hmm. Yeah.
And going back to on-camera work, the internet is such a, when they say curiosity kills the cat, it's just like, I don't think it killed this cat. Apparently, I saw it in very old YouTube video of you. You was on this old game show called Classic
Concentration.
Concentration. I'm like, I'm looking at you like, yeah, that's Kirk. That's definitely Kirk. You sound like Kirk. So I'm like, how did you get on a game show like that from back in the late 80s? That's very interesting note that many people probably figure out by now.
Well, as as a struggling actor in LA, you're looking for any way to make some money. I was catering, I was bartending, doing
Mhm.
things, and my wife had done the $20,000 pyramid in New York, and she had done okay. And so I thought, okay, so I auditioned for pyramid, and I actually did $20,000 pyramid with with Dick Clark,
Mm. Yeah.
and um and I got skunked. Nobody wanted to face me because you're practicing in the green room, and I
Yeah.
was just killing it. But you're dependent on a star to
Mhm.
and to take your hints.
Yeah.
And my star just took a nosedive, and so I got skunked. I was like the only guy who got skunked on Pyramid that day. So I went, okay, let's try another one. And I said, what are the games where it's just dependent on me? And concentration was just dependent on me. And so
Mhm.
that's what I went on that. And I won big.
Yeah, you did. So it's all in that YouTube video. I'm like, wow, this is like, cause I remember seeing like a lot of old game shows that don't usually appear right now in this time of day, but it was interesting just to see you just on camera compared to hearing you do your voiceover performances. And now going back to voiceover, due to your encounter with Tom Weiner, that means like the first voice production studio will be Saban Entertainment.
Yeah, yeah.
And working with Saban, that's how you met like people like, well, you already met Tom Weiner, you met people like Kerrigan Mahan, Scott Page Pactor, Michael Sorge, Wendy Lee.
Mhm.
Working with these guys on a number of projects into the late 80s, going to the early 90s, what was it like just collaborating with another talented group of actors? Because I remember before then, I talked with Michael Sorge that his group was like the original group, and then your group, the second with you, I believe Dorothy Fawn, Tom Fawn, Jonathan Fawn, Melissa Fawn, Steve Bloom. You's got like the second generation group of voiceover actors doing
Yeah,
dubbing AD artwork.
yeah.
So how was like working with these guys during the late 80s going to the early 90s?
Oh, I mean, it was great. Such a great group of guys, and funny. Doug Stone's another one who was in there with those guys, and they Doug Stone, Dave Mallow,
Dave
um,
Allen, yeah. Mm-hmm.
on high. Those were the guys. I think I just missed Tony Oliver. I missed that Robotech. Just
Yeah.
after that. Either that or it
Mm-hmm.
happened while I was just starting. But at any rate, I missed that boat. But no, it was great. I idolized these guys. The Epgars,
Yeah.
Clean
Ellen and Richard.
directed. And so that's why I got into the directing as well,
Mhm.
because I saw Mikey. Mikey was a great director, so much fun to
Mhm.
work with, and Richard Epcar was so much fun to work with all the time. Great senses of humor. I'm a
Mhm.
much quieter guy than that. Those guys are all they're much bigger and more gregarious in the studio. I'm kind of quiet until I get behind the mic, and then that's
Yeah.
when
Yeah, I'm about to say because as you know, you played a lot of hammy characters, so
Oh
you
yeah. No.
yeah, so going still on Saban Entertainment. Now, you had a session on Power Rangers. You played a monster called Dramo. I'm not sure who directed you during your sessions with Power Rangers because I'm pretty going to generally say Scott Page Pachter, but I've been told like Wendy Lee and Michael Sorge was directing too during those times back then, like 30 some years ago, you know. So what was like an environment working with Scott Page Pachter on Power Rangers?
Oh, Scotty was great. In fact, I don't. I'm trying to remember if I was ever directed by Wendy or Michael. Um, I think it was always, from my recollection, it was always Scotty. Um,
Mhm.
and you know, just a wonderful, relaxed man. He, I picked up a lot from Scotty. I always watched what he did. Um,
Mhm.
and he would tell me, you need to do this, Kirk, you need to do that. And so he instructed me a lot, um, as far as just the business.
Mhm.
Uh, just a wonderful guy. Yeah, I can't remember. I may have worked with Wendy or Mikey, but I think it was all Scott. And
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how many monsters I did, Power Rangers and
Yeah, you
all.
just did a couple on one called Dramole and additional other characters. It was not very many. It was about like five or six monsters. Like basically you were just doing like guest appearances, like a guest actor voicing the monster.
Mhm.
Like you, like Tom Weiner, Richard Epcar, even Bob Klein was on Power Ranger too. I'm like, it's I figured my intro to you was Digimon, but it was actually Power Rangers. Didn't know you were voicing monsters in it, you know.
Oh God, and
It just
there were a bunch of shows up there. There was Sweet Valley High and
yeah, Super
VR
Pig.
and all those shows. I was on all those
Mhm.
things.
Yeah, and I'm going backtrack from Saban Entertainment. I believe Tom Weiner directed you in this old series called Fist of the North Star. Now,
Yeah.
as an actor, were you familiar at all with the art of anime and dubbing, or in general sense, ADR work?
Not at all. Not
Hmm.
at all. I was completely foreign to it. I'd never.
Hmm.
I mean, I'd seen Chop Socky movies, where there was really,
Yeah.
and oh, so that's what dubbing is, huh? And a lot of the time, to be honest, I look at a lot of, old anime dubs and I go, the acting, it's real dubby. And because, you're juggling so many balls when you're
Hmm.
especially back in the beginning when we didn't have beeps
Yeah,
and so we had to just, it was tough.
like find like the time codes and whatnot, just trying to act on cue when you're seeing where your character appears, or you just trying to match the timing of the scene.
Yeah, well, you try to you try to memorize the line and
Yeah.
then watch the time code and let your eyes
Mhm.
dart from when it got to the time, you let your eyes dart from the time code down to the character and then you tried to chase the lip flaps and tried to honor, whatever emotion emotion the animation was dictating
Mhm.
and so it was a lot of technique involved. And so I can see why some of the earlier dubs were, I thought the acting was a little wooden. Um,
Yeah, because you're doing like you already. I mean, voiceover is already a specific form of acting. Now you're doing another specific form such as ADR and dubbing work. And so to me, to see how technical it is while trying to use whatever acting training you had as your background is honestly with me with ADHD, I'm like, yeah, it's gonna take me a long process just to get it. So I'm gonna need some special training just to try to do the job, you know.
right.
But you do a good job in your earlier work too. So I still enjoy hearing your performances, especially the hammy ones. But you know, you did an amazing job by the way, Kirk, in my opinion.
Well, acting school, although it was for the stage, everything that I
Yeah.
studied for the stage, I learned a lot of things that really helped me out a lot. Shakespeare helped me out a lot
Mhm.
because Shakespeare teaches you to act within the line. It's I am theater.
Yes.
You're not supposed to take pauses where you're not supposed to take pauses. It has to flow a certain way. Um, and it's a little technical. So that was very helpful to me. I mean, we studied classic theater for God, a solid year and a half
Yeah.
of just doing that.
Yeah. And another anime role you did, this character Gal in this series called Street Fighter 2 V.
Hmm.
Now, what do you recall voicing this kind of character? He was like a blonde guy, tough guy, muscle bound. So what was going through your idea of performing as Guile from Street Fighter V5? I mean Street Fighter 2 V.
I
Sorry.
don't recall a lot. I just know what I do when I get tough guys.
Mhm.
I do what I think tough guys should sound like. I
Yeah.
like start off a certain way. You find the vocal quality, whether is he clean? Has he got a little bit of gravel? Is he big and bombastic? Is he a little bit more reserved? So you get the general vocal quality, and then you just put your best foot forward and hope that the director knows what they're doing and can guide you through it.
Yeah. And speaking of amazing directors during that time, definitely want to mention this guy by the name of Kevin Seymour, as you know him a lot. So how did you met Kevin Seymour and get involved with his studio, which is I believe is called Magnitude 8?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, it was all like even most actors now, how they get their work. It's all by word of mouth. I can't remember the first show I did at Mag 8,
Hmm.
but I'm guessing somebody must have referred me. Somebody said, "Hey, you gotta check Kirk out," and they brought me in a smaller character, and then
Hmm.
they gave me much bigger stuff, and and Kevin was a lovely man, very shy. He was very very shy, um, and uh, and very meticulous in his workflow. Was very particular about what he wanted, knew what he wanted, and worked mostly with a man named Yutaka Maseba,
Hmm.
and who is a very close friend to this day. Yutaka has been a mentor of mine. Um, and Yeah, I cannot remember how I got in.
Okay.
But it was, the way I got into every studio. Somebody would say, "Hey, check Kirk out. He's, I think he might be good for this."
Yeah.
Um, and I mean, it's
Hey,
like
look.
I was working there once. Kevin brought me in for something, and I looked at it, I said, "God, Kevin, I could do this role, but I think so and so would really knock it out of the park." And he said, "No, no, no, I want you." And but that's the way it worked. That was the thing so much better about voiceover. On camera, you'd get an audition, you wouldn't tell anybody because you did
Mhm.
not want competition. You wanted to get that role. And voiceover, it's kind of like, there's lots of work. We're all you should take a look at so and so because they're really good. They're going to make your project better
Yeah.
or relaxed.
Now, now, like with Kevin Seymour, I mean, I've been hearing so many stories. Dorothy Fawn showed me stories. Robert Martin Klein, Bob Klein showed me stories about Kevin Seymour, Michael Sorge. These amazing, even Melody Spivak talked about Kevin Seymour. I mean, I've been just told that he's just been an amazing director, amazing, decent person, and he basically have his studio here as home for you guys in case you guys need to take a break or just waiting for your session to start. So I'm glad there was like a director like him just guiding you guys, know what you're capable of, pushing you guys in a more professional manner where, yeah, Kirk, I know you can do this, man. Like, give it your best shot.
Yeah. No, he was a wonderful guy, but like I said, he was very shy, and in the studio,
Mhm.
he's very quiet. And then he'd call me to book me, and sometimes he'd say, "Kirk, I I gotta tell you how much I love you, man. I just, and he just was so effusive and just, like, tell me I love you." I said, talk to another actor about it. Maybe it was like Mary Elizabeth, I think. And
Yeah.
she said, "Well, you know what that is, Kirk." what? Because he'll be effusive, and then I'll come into the studio the next day and he'll go, "Hi, Kirk." I'm like, what happened to this guy? And when he had a glass of wine or so, it brought out a whole different Kevin.
Oh
Uh,
man, thank you for sharing that, Kurt. That definitely, I love hearing that story. And now, definitely going back to Saban Entertainment. Now, I know you've been heard this story and you've been asked this question a few times, even at convention appearance during panels. With Digimon,
mhm.
you have a very long history with Digimon. It's just it's astounding in and of itself. And I just be so surprised, like anytime I hear your voice, I'm like, that's Kirk. That's him doing his that voice he does. It's just interesting. So I'm gonna go way back into the beginning. So when you got the audition of Gabumon, how did that happen? Or was it one of those things where they just recommend like Michael, Wendy, or the casting director saying like, "Hey Kirk, there's this role we believe you can do. Can you audition for it?"
Yeah, I can't remember who called me in, but I do
Hmm.
remember that it was one of those roles that I had to audition for.
Hmm.
A lot of times they just throw stuff in my lap and just say, "Here, yeah, do it." Um, but no, I remember going down to the Saban, I believe it was in Westwood at the time,
Westwood, yeah.
and and auditioning for this role, and they weren't quite sure what they wanted for him. And they described him a little bit, and I said, well, he seems like kind of a he seems and I don't know what made me think of this because I look at him and go, well, I don't know where I got that, but I say he's spiritual. It seems kind of like a Zen master, kind of like a wise
Yeah.
little
Hmm.
guy. And so that's where I came up with the voice. I don't know why I picked that kind of back of the throat kind of the
Hmm.
voice, but that's it was always my idea to try to keep things calm and very zen with him.
Yeah. And I know during your first session, was you shocked that there was like a smaller form by the name of Sunoma and then
Yeah. Yeah, because I mean, I don't know how many of the actors got to do all the different iterations
yeah,
of
I think yeah, from that group, you were like the only one. I think you, Edie Merman, yeah. Yeah, I think you were the only two that's able to do all the forms. All the other had different actors doing different forms. You were like you and Edie Merman were the only actors during that group.
yeah. Yeah, so it was getting the range was
Yeah. Oh, oh.
I had established I don't know if I had established Garurumon before Tsunomon, but I just remember, starting out with Gabumon and then seeing this little guy, and they go, okay, they'll go really high with him, and I'm like, "Woo." I, as high as I absolutely could. And I've been doing some Digimon stuff lately, and I just go,
Yeah.
please don't bring in any Tsunomon lines, because getting that far up in the upper range it
Yeah.
it is so hard.
Yeah, I'm like, because I remember you like, I try to figure out because many fans pointed out say he did like a different take in the earlier time compared to the recent where Sunama appeared like for a couple of seconds where you're definitely pitching your voice up high. I mean, like, I don't want to impersonate you, but you do a good job sustaining that voice because I know, like I was saying, doing high voices like that is a challenge.
Yeah.
And then with oh man, I'm not sure. I think right around the time when Jeff and Bob Buckles were directing, when they came in, when you saw where Garurumon first appeared, did you have to backtrack to like shift the voice from Garurumon to where Garurumon not to make it the pitch and the tone of the vocal tone being a little bit deeper and a little bit monstery because he's like a werewolf type
Yeah.
Digimon.
Yeah.
So was that like a difficult process initially?
Uh, yeah, it was because I went, okay, this guy's a big wolf. So I go kind of monstery with Garurumon, and they go, oh yeah, he's got
Or yeah.
okay. Let me see if I can get a little deeper, a little more monstery. And they say, oh yeah, now you got another one. You got metal. And I'm
Metal
like,
Garurumon.
And so I said, well, let me try, guys. And I just kept trying to go deeper and growlier as they built.
You do an amazing job with those voices, especially the Garurumon lines, because when you did Metal Garurumon, I just like I'd be holding my throat like for a Kirk. I mean, when you straighten or yelling like anytime like Metal Garurumon received battle damage, I was like, oof, Kirk. Did you have to take any kind of lozenges after the session with a Metal Garurumon session? You're the
No,
man, man. You're the
no
man, Kirk.
training, and all the voice training I had, the years of voice training. Um, if I if I did a long, if I did a 2 hour session of nothing but Where Garurumon or Metal Garurumon, yeah, I'd be in trouble. But
Mhm.
only knock out, 15, anywhere between 15 minutes and an hour. I could
Yeah.
do that, and I had a pretty back then. I don't have it, but back then my chords were like iron. They just
Mhm.
bounced back. It
Yeah.
did hurt it a little bit. Like I don't remember ever really hurting it much doing Digimon, but like doing like a Call of Duty game, I'd
Yeah.
rip pretty good.
Oh
And
yeah.
by the next day, I was fine.
Mhm.
I've had sessions since where I've torn it up and it's gone for a couple of days. But
Yeah. I would actually to do the Metal Garurumon voice because my little brother, he's a fan of Gabumon and he's a fan of your work as a character, but I don't wanna and can't you have a session later this week or sometime in the future? I want to save your court, so I want you to do it. But going next to Digimon, there's another version of Digimon. This time, Mary Elizabeth McGlynn is directing you. You played a dad character in one season, and it was just you, just sounding like yourself. Now, at this point, normally, how often do you use your natural voice for voiceover roles back then compared to in recent times?
oh, well, I use it much more now. Uh,
Okay.
yeah.
Yes.
Well, and and I give it to Crispin, because I've always been a character actor, always,
Mhm. Yeah. Oh, yeah. You're
and
natural.
on stage, everything, always done character stuff because I love it. Um,
Hmm.
but Crispin says first learn to play yourself and then
Hmm.
do other stuff. And I'm like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I kind of wish I'd gone that way because
Hmm.
I found it at first, I found it very difficult to play myself. When I was in New
Hmm.
York, I studied with an acting teacher just for that reason to bring me down because I was
Yeah.
always big and broad and said, let's just get down to me and my
Hmm.
core. And lately, with all the dubbing of live action, I do
Hmm.
my own voice all the time, and it's and I feel really good about it. Um,
Yeah.
it I'm very comfortable with it now.
Yeah. And like when I was listening to the Digimon season where you just you playing a dad character and use your natural voice, I'm like, it felt like you were just playing like a fictional version of yourself because at that back then, I think around 2001, you was already a dad back then. So it was like a natural fit. And with Mary Elizabeth McGlynn's direction, you just did your own thing. And I can't thank her enough. Jeff Nimoy, Bob Buckles, Wendy Lee, Michael Storage for all the work, the direction, and the freedom that they gave you, like playing with ranges with these characters, because you went from like the Garurumon lines, you played a role called Karatemon, and then now going forward, well, let me backtrack from another Digimon. Did you have any memory working on Digimon the movie when it first came to your vision? Like, you know.
I do. Well, yeah, I remember recording it, not real well. I remember is going to the premiere, which was
Oh,
very cool on the 20th Century Fox lot, and
yeah.
the cast was there, and it's very cool. We did in doing anime, you don't go to many premieres,
Right, right.
but yeah, and then sitting down to watch it, and the thing was that the uh, what they had was we had done beautiful sync on it, but for
Hmm.
some reason the reel they had was offset by like 4.5 frames, and so the
Oh
sound
man.
was horrendous, and it was so hard to watch because
Uh-huh.
everything was off, nothing fit, and it's like, guys, we did this right. How could you get it wrong?
Yeah, to me, you all you guys sounded great in the movie. I mean, and the fact you guys redubbed this with Marissa Lenti directing.
Uh,
Now, how did that when you was asked to come back as Gabumon? Oh wait, let me backtrack a little bit. Omnimon. So, quick question: did you record first, or you have to match what Lex Lang did as War Greymon?
yeah.
So you recorded first? Okay.
No, it depended on the session. Sometimes
Okay.
I'd go in, I'd record first. Other times I'd go in, Lex would be there. And, it's just whoever gets in first gets to lay down what they
The
want to do.
foundation.
The other person has to copy it.
Hmm. And you guys work really together. Just it's cool just to hear your monster voice just overlap each other, and the fact that you guys got to dub over another and try to make sure that have that dual voice synchronization. It goes to show the talent of you, the talent of the director and the engineer, how they put it all together.
Yeah.
And back then, did they have Pro Tools when you first did Omnimon, or was it another difficult
No,
technical issue with it?
I think they had Pro Tools when we were doing Digimon.
Okay. Okay. It was just like a little curious fact because I remember Derek Stephen Princeton, he also did like a fusion character where every time he did it, he allowed Paul St. Peter to record first and then he'll match what Paul did and the inflections where,
Yeah.
it's interesting, like when I hear these dual roles where an actor got to match what the actor did so that became like a dual voice. And now going back to doing Digimon again, which is not out yet. So did Marissa Lenti just personally reach out to you to say, can you come back as Gabumon, Melogarurumon, and Omnimon?
Yeah.
So
Yes.
did you do this with your home studio or did you, go all the way to Sound Cadence?
Yeah, I went into Sound Cadence.
Oh, wow. Was that your first time working somewhere in Texas?
No, they got a studio here in Burbank.
Oh yeah. Oh, wow. I didn't know that. So thank you for telling me that, Kirk. I'm thinking like Sound Cadence had one in Texas, but I didn't know they had a separate studio. That's a lot convenient. You don't have to fly to
Yeah.
Texas. So so coming back to basically doing a redo of what you've done, like we're basically saying like almost 25 years ago. What was that feeling considering the fact that the director was also a big fan of Digimon? So how did that warm up to you in that retrospect?
Oh, it just, used to working with so many different directors, and
Yeah, so many.
fact that he was a fan was really sweet. Um,
Mhm.
if it was a fan who didn't have any skills,
Yeah.
one thing, but Marissa, she's a good director, so I felt I was in good hands, and she,
I believe so
not a
too.
fan, but somebody who had directing skills and had
Hmm.
experience. And I didn't. There's times when you go in as an actor and you go, okay, I'm going to have to walk this director through this performance here. Uh,
Hmm.
but no, she was great. I was very relaxed.
Nice.
Well, other
And
than worrying about being able to get the voice again, and she would, I thought the voice was one place, and she kept having to pull me back and make it deeper because I thought it was higher, and she said, no, no, Kirk, it's deeper, and I'm like, I don't know. I
yeah,
had to,
and the thing is, now that you mentioned it, there are many fans saying that during your performance at Gabumon Try and Kazuna, they saying that the voice was basically more higher pitched than usual. I'm like, maybe Kurt thought the voice was at that pitch, and then when Marissa just gently reminded you it was actually a little bit deeper, Kurt. So,
he
so
is.
thank you, Marissa, for guiding Kurt to his that register. And now I'm saying you got a long history. I should make a note that you, Bob Klein, Richard Epcar, and Michael Swartz, you are one of the four actors that have like a voiceover role in every Digimon season besides the new one that came out last year.
Uh-huh.
So any Digimon season from like Digimon Data Squad where you play Homer and
Really, we're the only ones?
yeah, you were like the only four actors so far compared not counting the new one that came out last year where
Or
Davey Mitchell played Gabumon and whatnot. But yeah, only you four. It's just like is recurring. I guess like just I mean Mary Elizabeth, Jeff Nimoy, Michael Sorg just love working with you guys. And I know it's a coincidence in it of itself, but it's an interesting fact. And I shared this with Bob Klein and Michael Sorg when I interviewed them too about 2 years ago. They were surprised too, but but I know there's been other actors that work on many other seasons, just not as common and not more on a like consistency like you and the other three actors, such as Bob, Richard, and Michael.
Uh-huh. Huh.
And going back on Digimon Data Squad, do you remember voicing a character named Citramon where you basically sound like Don Patch from Bubble Ball?
I, no, I don't remember that, but it doesn't surprise me because I go to the well only so many times, and I'll use whatever I can, and yeah, Don Patch is. I think Don Patch may have he may have surfaced in several things.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, because with Jeff Nimoy directing you during that session, and he wrote for Bobo Boat, so I basically he saw this big orange Digimon. Kirk, can you do like a Don Patch type voice for this character?
That's what I'm sure that's what he said, and I said, "Oh yeah."
Yeah, and going with Bobo with again Michael Soros directing you. You must have had a blast working on that show because you did definitely having too much fun. I would say working as Don Patch. So, any memory or any kind of session that brought you any kind of funny moments with Michael Storage?
Yeah, I mean, work with Mikey because Michael's sense of comedy is
Oh
incredible.
yeah.
He's very funny just himself, but
Mhm.
you know, and we're around the same age, so we have
Mhm.
very similar sensibilities as far as the comedy that we grew up with. Um,
Yeah.
and so yeah, there were like I remember one session in particular where I mean, yeah, we had a script. And we followed it for the most part, but there were times when we just said, No, we want to do something different." And Mike would say, "Okay, so what I want you to do here, Kirk, is do Don Patch doing this kind of voice." And I go, "Oh, yeah, that's great, great. Now, how about it
Yeah.
if I that into something like this?" And he goes, "Oh, yeah, 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 that was great. Yeah, and then go from that into this." And we just kept, and there was a session where we just kept building off, feeding off of each other, and adding to and improving and and goofing around, and that worked like that a lot.
Yeah. And I should notice, Paul St. Peter, you guys were working on a show called Battle Be Demon with another Michael Sarich directing. He said he was kind of sheepishly jealous because you do like a whole bunch of outtakes after you've done your session and whatnot. And then there was a scene where his character, Armanda, which is a big yellow cat, apparently this is his outtake saying like, "Now sniff my ass." And like, so he was trying to get like a little outtake because the outtake that he did, it caused everybody in the studio during that session to cause the ball out laughing to the point where it took them so much time just to get back into the session of things because they were laughing too hard. So it's interesting to hear these stories where you guys were having too much fun, especially behind the scenes with the outtakes and the little banter that you guys play with the other actors. Because at this point, you've been in this business for about over 40 years.
Uh,
So you know a lot of people. You've been friends with so many of them for decades. So you know how they operate. You know how they go. So if you have fun, I all honestly definitely have some fun. Have a lot of fun at that. So as again, I'm gonna diverge from Digimon a little bit. Now the show Naruto. Now this is another show where, oh my goodness, you had like about 20 different roles within the Naruto series. Now, again, was this like another audition process because your first role was the bridge maker Tazuna, and this is like one of the few times Jeff directed you before it transitioned to Mary Elizabeth.
yeah.
So, do you have any recollection memory of doing your first couple of sessions on Naruto?
Yeah, I just remember going in and them saying, "This thing's huge, Kirk. This thing is
Yeah.
really huge." And going in and going, "Doesn't look that different." And going, I don't get it. I don't get it. And so it was a while. Yeah, and I remember auditioning for the guy, and yet he was not that big of a role. He was only there for a while. So
Mhm. Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I just remember going in and going, well, what's everybody going so crazy over? Because I think I think it was around the same time. I can't swear to it, but I think it
Yeah.
was around the same time I was doing like Samurai Champloo,
Yeah,
and,
yeah, yeah, you were. Yeah.
and I
Around the
thought
same time.
Samurai Champloo. I thought, oh man, this thing is
Yeah, yeah.
cutting edge. It's different. This thing is
hmm
just off the charts. And then going in and working on Naruto and going, well, this seems kind of, typical. And I don't see any real, anything cutting edge or surprising about it. But, I was obviously wrong. It was a huge show.
hmm And then you transitioned to like another. Did you when you did Kisame Hochigagashi,
Yeah,
was this another audition or they just asked you to come in and do it?
they just threw that one at me. Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. I mean, the way you went in the first time when I saw Kisame, you carried him all the way to the time of his death for about like you've been playing this character for like for the past 10 years until he, committed suicide. So
Yeah.
what was your takeaway from voicing Kisame? Because I know at that point Mary directed you throughout that whole time before she had to step down before Ryan and Susie came to direct you with any other Naruto Boruto session. What's your takeaway that you got from Kisame?
There were other directors after Mary.
Oh yeah. Was it Jamie? Did Jamie direct you at one point or a couple of points?
Uh, very little. Wendy directed. I
Oh yeah.
directed.
Oh
Um,
really? Ooh.
Yeah, I directed Naruto for a while. Wendy had it for a while. I'm trying to think who else had Naruto.
Liam O'Brien.
Lion. But yeah,
Yeah, Liam.
we had it
hmm
for 2, 3 years probably before they
Okay. Yeah, that's interesting. You know this. I would say Michael Soares because he's also on that show too. I hear him like every bits and pieces and
Yeah.
whatnot. And then with Kisame, you also voiced another wacky demon by the name of Shukaku. Now, was this another one where they just threw at you and you just picked up a?
Yeah.
Now, did you had so much fun voicing Shukaku?
Yeah. Well, Shikaku and Shukaku was fun because I mean he was just, wild and wacky and I
Yeah.
completely different than Kisame because he was
Yeah.
my upper register a lot. Um and but the other one who was fun was the one who played opposite of Mary was Fukasaku.
Oh, Fukusaku, the Toad Sage.
At the
Yes.
toad. Yeah.
You did. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. You did a great job carrying that character. And just like you definitely had that sage like quality to his voice. And it's like when you doing one of your old man type voice.
Yeah.
And you do so very extraordinarily well, Kirk. Thank you and Mary for guiding these two characters during those
Well,
arc of Naruto.
you would never know the reference, but we kind of took our characters off of there was an old show called Mon Pa Kettle, and
Yeah,
there
that's definitely before my time. I'm
oh,
32,
way
so
before you, black and white sitcom,
oh
uh,
yeah.
and anyway, so we kind of based our characters off of Mon Pa Kettle, and they're always kind of bickering, and anyway, that's where we came up with those, and that's why. And playing off of Mary was just a blast.
Yeah, because you guys play off super, super well. And the funny thing is, going back to Digimon, when you play the dad character using your natural voice, the person that played the wife, the mom of the main character, was also Felice Sampler. She was also using her natural voice.
Yeah.
Now, did you have any history with Felice Sampler? Did you direct her in any other previous productions?
No, but back then, I had worked with her because now things changed
Yeah.
with anime. It started out that we would do bits and walla in a group.
Oh yeah, yeah, Wall of groups.
So the group would be together and somebody would stand up and do a bit and somebody else would stand up and do a bit. And so you'd be in the room with, 5, 6 different actors. And so
hmm
that's how you got to know each other. So I'm sure Felice and I had worked a number of times together in those kinds of groups.
hmm
So uh, after Digimon, I directed her a number of times and she was brilliant.
Yeah.
Um, but no, I hadn't directed her then.
Okay. Yeah, it's just like an interesting point. It's like it's always cool to hear you guys do your natural voice for these certain type of characters, especially when it's a great fit because it's acting is a very beautiful art form once taken very very seriously and then understand what you can bring out from yourself in your inner core and then bring it out to the characters that you bring to life within yourself and your voice. So like I think it's still that misconception still in 2024 like I have a character voice. I'm a voice actor. I mean, no, not really. If you have no kind of acting training or understand the whole foundation of being an actor, you can't really be a voice actor. It's not really just the voice, it's really the acting part. The
Yeah.
voice is just a bonus. Like if you can maintain that acting core within that character voice, you basically own your role of being a character actor. Even with accents and whatnot, like you can do a British accent, a French accent, a Spanish accent. It's a beautiful art form, and I'm glad people like you are definitely doing amazing, extraordinary work. And I'm glad you still got that same fire that you had 40 years ago and still doing it to this day. Thank you so much, Kirk.
Thank you. No, it's a blessing, to
Mhm.
be able to do what I do. It's
Yeah. And then after a while, and I know you did Gabumon and his form in various video games. Do you remember working on voicing Gabumon at this point? It was just Bob Buckles directing you in this video game. This is like literally like about 20 years ago. So it's just like a session where Bob just asked you to come in to work on this Digimon video game at his studio, which is Splice Bread Productions.
uh-huh.
I think that's the name of his production studio. And I believe you've been working with Bob Buckles in recent times, right? In other different projects.
Yes. Yeah, we work together all the time.
And you guys did amazing work with the Final Fantasy games and Kingdom Hearts 3. I was trying to figure out who's directing. Was it? I mean, I've been told you were one of the directors. I wasn't sure was Bob was directing too or anybody else. And with going back, it's hard going back because you do so much stuff, Kirk. Like I seen your acting credits, it's like over like 800 right now.
Is it?
Yes. Exactly my point. But going back to Kingdom Hearts now, from my understanding, I don't think you had to audition for SciX, right? Or because they said, now explain that part because I know you shared the story before. So SciX is one of the point because you did a character in Samurai Champloo and it transitioned to voicing SciX because the Japanese client said, we want the English actor of this character to voice SciX in the English version. Now, for someone to start you out just like that to work on a series of video games, that's had to be like an amazing take, and it's hard to say no. So, what was your takeaway when they asked you to come in and voice Sayax?
Well, the biggest thing was that I had never worked for Disney before.
Yeah.
Disney's like a, "Ooh," you know,
Hmm.
and so when the phone rang, they said, "Hi, this is so and so with Disney character voices. We want you to come in and do this character on our game." I was like, "What?" Um, and so yeah, I mean, the story goes, they called me once, and I said, "Yeah, sure, yeah, yeah." They booked me for this time. Then they called and they said, "Ah, gosh, we have to reschedule you. I've got to move your slot." And I'm like, "Hey, no problem, no problem. I'll come in whenever you want." And third time they called and they rescheduled me again. I went, "Oh yeah, no problem." And I said, "By the way, how did I get this role?" And they went, "Oh, I don't know." And I went, "Okay, okay." And I showed up and I said, "How did I get the role?" And that's when they explained that the actor who had played Gene, the Japanese
Mhm.
Samurai Champloo, played Sayax. So they figured that's how I could, since I played Gene, I could play Sayax as well. And yeah, it was pretty amazing. And it's
Yeah,
a pretty interesting group to work for. Yeah,
yeah, and then with familiar guys that Bob Buckles. I mean, he directed you in like basically in majority of your Kingdom Hearts sessions, right?
all of them. Yeah,
Oh,
I don't think I've had another director for Kingdom Hearts.
okay, it was just all Bob.
Wow. Yeah.
Okay. And voicing Sayax, and then he had another counterpart by the name of Esau. Did you have to voice Esau a little bit different from Sayax because Esau supposed to represent the more humane version of before he became Sayax and whatnot? Was it a trickier process as an actor?
I
If
mean,
you can
they just
recall.
asked you, you just, just a little. They just, because it's the same person, you just got to change the voice up a little bit for, for the age or whatever. So
Mhm.
it's just a slight adjustment. And we're used to making adjustments all the time in our voices. So,
Yeah.
that big a deal.
And one of my good friends, Chris Mayak, he interviewed you before like 2 years ago. Do you remember voicing like a teenage character on this show called Please Teacher, Please? Oof, I forgot the name of it. Forgot the name of
Right.
Peach Prince. It, it's a series that you recorded in Bang Zoom Entertainment. So this is like about another 20-year-old gig.
Yeah.
Do you remember voicing any kind of teenage roles, like a teenager type characters?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Hmm. And because I know you did one on Digimon. It's like right around the time where Jeff, one last, I think it was like one of your last session, either Jeff or Mary directed you. I think he's by the name of like the older Poi brother and whatnot. It was basically you just sound like a typical teenager and whatnot, and you just went with it. It's like one of those things they throw at you like, "Hey, Kirk, can you play a teenage role?" And you did it. Did you have any like idea of like you being an older actor of doing like a teenage type voice for any kind of characters? Because you also did one on Naruto too.
Yeah. Yeah. They throw little things at you on Naruto. I did, well, like Sword Art Online. Um,
Hmm.
Online. So
Yeah. Hmm. Oh yeah.
I played him in this. So yeah, I mean, it gets a little tougher as my vocal cords have a little more wear and tear on them. But the most difficult part about playing the teenager is the attitude.
Oh.
Um, because vocally you can get there, but the attitude of teenagers is so different now that
Hmm.
and now that my kids are grown, I don't have that around the house anymore to
Yeah.
copy. Um,
Hmm.
and I'm just not around teenagers that much.
Right.
So, and I don't watch, since most teen dramas or comedies on TV don't interest me that much. I don't watch
Right.
them. So
Hmm.
yeah, that's the hardest part, is getting the attitude.
Hmm. And funny enough, going back, I mean, and I know you played Gene on Samurai Champloo. Now, Naruto, this is like much later in years, right around like 2012, 2011. You play a samurai character in Naruto by the name of Mifune.
Uh,
Now, what was your inspiration creating a voice for Mifune for Naruto Shippuden?
I think since I'd done so many different voices, I think I basically just looked at his physicality and thought,
Yeah.
okay, he's pretty standard. He's pretty that, and then I listened to the Japanese performance and just
Hmm.
took my cues from the Japanese.
Mm. Amazing, yeah, because like I was saying, like it's always interesting, like when you're a character actor, the directors you work with over the years, even decades, they know what you're capable of. They just throw you a role and then you just create a voice on the fly and then you just stick with it.
Yeah.
It's really it's amazing talent that you have there, Kirk. And I'm still blown away to this day and I just can't stop talking about it. But I will, but I'm gonna continue on talking about it anyway. And going back on Digimon, when Digimon came back after a while, this is still at Studiopolis. How did it came to your email or your direct confrontation? Did Jamie or Rita Mashcut just contact you? Hey, like, hey Kurt, there's this new Digimon thing. The character Gabumon comes back. Like, are you interested in doing it again? And then, of course, you said yeah. So, what was your takeaway when Digimon came back in the form of the Digimon Tri movies?
Oh, it was, I mean, I'm pretty sure Jamie called me.
Okay,
Uh,
Jamie. Okay, that makes sense.
'Cause I mean, we've worked together for so long. We're good
Yeah.
friends.
Oh yeah.
I worked with him as an actor and a director, and anyway, we've got a lot of history. So he just calls. And I was thrilled. I was like, oh gosh, it's like I get to see. It's like going back to a high school reunion. You're
Yeah.
old friends again. You know,
Hmm.
you haven't seen in years. So
Hmm.
that's kind of what it was like.
Yeah, so going through those sessions because at this point it was just mainly Gabumon with a lot of lines because the Garurumon forms they didn't really have no lines at all. It was just them just growling, grunting, like a lot of extra stuff or just saying their name. like Garurumon, Rare Garurumon, Mega Garurumon, Omnimon, etc. And you know, and well, Sunamon did have little lines too, so I'm pretty sure you remember that session where Ryan actually, do you remember playing Sunamon? Can you give me your best voice for this character again? You know, you did it. So, do you have any takeaway from any of those sessions as Gabumon for the Tribe movies, or was it for the next movie, which is Last Evolution Kazuna?
I don't really remember the first one. Yeah, so I mean it's been a while.
Yeah,
So
yeah, it's been a while.
any
Yeah, I understand.
concrete memories of that? You know, if somebody reminded me of something, I'd go, "Oh yeah, that." But yeah, on the fly, I can't come up with anything.
Yeah, and then because I know this is oh man. Now when the I won't say the last Digimon project. Now going back right around the time when the pandemic first hit, did you record as Gabumon for the Kazuna movie? And this is at this point it was Suzanne Goldish, or as you guys call her, Susie Goldish. She directed you guys for that Digimon movie. Did you record it at Studio Office, or you just had like a set up home studio at the time, if you can recall, right around the pandemic first hit?
I don't remember recording Digimon in my home studio, so I'm guessing it was early enough that we were still in studio.
Yeah. Hmm. And you know what? The interesting part you say that because I asked all the other actors like Bob Klein, Dorothy Fawn, Tom Fawn, they told me that they recorded right before the pandemic hit. So I guess at that point, you know, Jamie, Rita, Susie, Ryan, they asked all the original actors to record their part first before they get any like new actors to fill in, do their things right when the pandemic hit because you know some of the original actors couldn't come back because of technicalities with their home studio. And since I'm now on the subject, when the pandemic first hit, you as an actor, did you have any initial drawbacks or in like hurdles that you had to climb over just to continue on as a voiceover actor?
Fun. This one really. I'd already had my with this we're in my home studio.
Mhm,
Uh it's actually I built a storage shed when we bought this house, and
mhm,
my handyman and I were building this storage shed. My wife, I was going to have my studio inside the house, and she
mhm.
looked at it and she said, "You know, you guys are building that so well. You could put your studio out there." And I went, "What?" So we built my studio, um, but when the pandemic hit, you had to have Ethernet.
Mhm.
It couldn't be a wireless connection, and I was, my studio's about 60 feet, 70 feet away from my house. It's
Oh,
a good distance.
yeah.
I'm country kind of, so I got lots of room. And so I had to dig a trench and run a cable from my house
Oh.
to my studio. And that was, but I lucked out because it had rained recently. The ground was nice and soft. I did it in an hour or two. I dug the trench in an hour or two, and then, laid the PVC and ran the cable through it. Anyway, it worked pretty well.
Yeah, yeah, that's amazing story. Thank you for sharing me that because I know it's like many actors have their own takeaway from how they have to build up their own home studio to make sure it's viable and versatile, especially it's one of those technical aspects where probably at that point I probably would have honestly I would have probably quit as a voiceover actor if I pursued this career because it's a huge transition because you're so used to doing so at the studio that doing the production of the series or the video games, but having your own home setup is a really technical aspect because not only that you have to work as an actor, you got to work as an engineer. Now, going on to that engineering side, did you have any past engineering experience before, you know, it became more essential with the pandemic?
Just a little. I mean, I yeah, recording all my own auditions at home in my studio. Um,
Hmm.
and as a director, when I'm working with, you're sitting right next to the engineer, and when he does something, you go, "How'd you do that?" And they go, "Oh, you just do this, this, this." And I go, "Write that down." Okay, and I'd write it down. And I'd go home and I'd try it and I go, "Oh, yeah, that's great." And whenever my engineers would do anything, I'd say, "Show me how to do that." I mean, I'm not great, but
Hmm.
I'm okay.
Yeah, it definitely, it definitely works. You got definitely got a lot of tricks and that definitely skills behind your voice. And now this is another Studiopolis gig that you've been doing for a long time now. Of course, Shadow the Hedgehog. Now, I know, I believe you did had the audition for Shadow the Hedgehog, right?
Yeah, I'm pretty
So,
sure. I'm not 100% certain. I remember I was doing a an announcer in some game, like a in five, four, three, two, that kind of a real big, broad announcer character,
yeah.
and got a lot of announcing lines. And then I'm not sure whether I auditioned or they just said, try this character. And they may have just given it to me.
Ooh, yeah. And then what was your takeaway from voicing Shadow after all these years? Because from story wise, they're probably giving like any kind of storylines related dialogue, and they're a point where he just having fun doing the Olympics and whatnot. With Jack Fletcher directing you throughout, I'm pretty sure he was the sole director of your sessions, right?
Yeah.
So I'm pretty sure you had fun working on the Boom series as Shadow and then Orbod.
Mhm.
Now, as an actor with this technical aspect of you voicing two different characters with different character voice, if you had to do like both of these characters, which one would you prefer to do first, Shadow or Orbot?
Orbot.
Okay, yeah.
Orbot, because he's a
Good.
much cleaner voice.
That makes sense. And then with Shadow, like how far did you have to stretch portraying this type of character? Because I know you played characters like this before in the past, but was he a little bit unique in this aspect of him being shallow, just shallow?
Yeah, but the great thing about it was I'm not a gamer,
Yeah,
and I had no idea who Shadow was. I thought, oh,
of
he's,
course.
he's just a character. He's just some guy.
Yeah.
And so I didn't feel the pressure of
hmm
the fact coming in and playing a character who's been around for years and years and years. So yeah, I didn't put any pressure on myself. So there was that. And I just a lot of times when I come up with a voice, they'll say he's this kind of character, and I'll say he's kind of a dark anti-hero kind of guy. And I think, and so I go back to the movies that I grew up with, and I think
hmm
a dark anti-hero, Clint Eastwood. So I do my version of a Clint Eastwood for him. I started out with my version of a Clint Eastwood, and he's kind of evolved a little bit,
Yeah,
but
he did.
that's where he started.
And speaking of Shao, I'm looking forward to hearing you. There's this upcoming game, Sonic game, where Shao have his own storyline and whatnot. Of course, no spoilers, but I'm just looking forward to what you brought to this character and this new aspect of this old game that came out like over 10 years ago. They just add like new contact featuring Shadow. So I'm looking forward to what you brought with this character this time around compared to what you did with Forces, which I enjoy what you've done with the character because, like you said, he was an anti hero. He had his one goal in his mind. He set out to do it regardless of what kind of affiliation he is as a hero or villain, like anti hero. He do what he want to do, regardless if he's a hero or a villain. And with going back with the Sonic Boom sessions, I'm pretty sure it was like a fun experience because this is like one of the few times where you work with the other actors. So you get to see like folks like Colleen O'Shaughnessy, Roger Craig Smith, Travis Willingham. What was like working with these guys and Mike? Well, did you work with Mike Pollock? And yeah,
Mike Pollock was in New York, and he
yeah,
would
yeah, that's right. He did the whole satellite thing. So it was just you and Roger, Travis,
Steve
maybe,
and Wally.
and Colleen. What was like just working with these guys playing off each other just in the same room compared to where normally in anime you just record by yourself?
Well, it was a blast. The toughest thing was for Jack to wrangle us because,
Oh.
because I mean, Roger just goes off.
Yeah.
Roger's going off and cracking everybody up, and Wally's going off, with
Oh,
these,
Wally, yeah, Wally too. Wally Wingert. Yeah.
and everybody's just playing with each other and goofing off and laughing at the mess ups. They would throw Easter eggs at Travis all the time, things that they knew he could never he couldn't pronounce, b he would have no idea what it was, um the word that they would throw at him, and we all just waited for these moments in the script when Travis would hit these speed bumps, and see what he would do with them. So yeah, it was just an incredible experience. And Jack was wonderful. He was he was fun when we needed to be fun, and there were times when we needed to get down to business, and he would crack the whip. Um, but just yeah, a wonderful, wonderful man.
And then going on to the Sonic Twitter takeovers. Now, from my understanding, what I've seen, it was just you, Mike, Roger, Colleen, used to be Travis, and now it's Dave Mitchell. So you guys is just in one room. It's like basically playing radio tag in a sense, doing the Twitter takeovers.
Yeah, it's well, they write a script for us,
Yeah. Mhm.
and we shoot it out, and then the fans respond to that, and based on those fan responses, the team of writers will put together, they'll put a new script, and they just keep pouring on these scripts. And in the meantime, while they're writing, we're just sitting in the room, making jokes and goofing together and having a ball, and then waiting for the next script, going, okay, yeah, bring us the next one, and again playing off of each other,
Mhm.
and it's not like we have to knock it out in one take. So if we mess around a little bit, if we improvise, it's okay. They'll say,
Yeah.
oh, yeah, don't do that again. Um, but they give us a little freedom there, and they're just a blast. The writers are great, and they give us wonderful stuff.
Yeah. Oh man, it's just like it's always been. I've been, say I'm like an acquaintance with Mike Pollock. He told me that you guys are just a hilarious bunch of group of people that he have fun with many times. It's just you guys like you goof off in a more professional manner, and then when it's time to get down to business, you guys just write and on it, just like any other professional actor would.
Yeah.
And going to the States. So how is your times in the past doing conventions? Because I know that's like your main goal, interacting with any actors outside of just being directing them or just seeing them in passing during the section. So what's your experience of going to these conventions or public appearances per se?
I've just started doing it, actually. I mean, say that I had done them prior to the pandemic. I would do maybe one convention
Yeah.
a year, and I've just started doing more. It's it's a lot of fun, and yeah, the reason I hadn't done them more before is because I always felt, well, I'd rather be in a studio.
Hmm.
Um, and like between acting and directing, it seems like, I didn't have any time for conventions.
Yeah,
But
because I was telling my friends like the reason why Kirk don't appear in these things, he just loved doing his job more than just making public appearances at times. So seeing him at a convention is like once in a like is a rare event, like for him to even want to do it because he's loved doing what he's doing right now as an actor, writer, director. So it's like I definitely get it. So I honestly understand what you're coming from because it's hard for me just to squeeze out just one weekend where I'd rather just performing or directing.
yeah, yeah, but I'm doing them, I'm on a little bit of a break now, so I'm doing a number of
Yeah.
them, and
Hmm.
it's the fans are so great, and
Hmm.
they just shower you with love, and it's a pretty wonderful experience.
And I want to thank you for making Joy to this one fan. He asked you to do all the Gabumons for him. You use all the different voices that you use for Gabumon for him. This happened like around 2019, so
Okay.
it's just amazing just seeing your face just shouting Mellow Garurumon in his voice. It's like, yeah, he's definitely pulling out a good performance for sure because of the intensity in your voice and your face is just good. If I see myself doing that, I will definitely laugh because I get it because a character like that, you want to give that much intensity and
Yeah.
an appropriate voice for the character. So again, for the performances you brought to Digimon, it definitely will remain rent free in my head.
Thank you. That's very kind of you.
You're welcome. And going before I end this off, do you have I know I'm named like many actors, directors. Do you have any other actors that you want to note that are like talented in their own right? Because I know you work with a lot of new generation of actors for like Final Fantasy series, Kingdom Hearts games. And oh man, did you speaking of going back to Kingdom Hearts 3, did you get the opportunity? to direct Christopher Lloyd or no?
No, no, I was just directing the Japanese characters.
Okay, okay. Because like, I noticed I was shocked to hear him in Kingdom Hearts 2. I'm like, because they use like a mix of many actors known in the voiceover world along with celebrity actors. They usually, or any actors from the Disney movies, like, it's like a huge bunch. Do you find like a little, yeah, I know you just told me you only directed like the anime characters. So I guess Bob does direct the other actors?
I th I think Bob, I'm not sure. I'm not,
Okay, no worries.
I think he's pretty much just the anime characters as well, and they bring in
Mhm.
Disney directors to direct all the Disney characters.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I'm not
Yeah.
sure. I wouldn't swear to that. Bob may have directed some of them.
Yeah, because there was like a couple of anime type characters for the Kingdom Hearts games where they used like a celebrity talent involved, like Zachary Gordon.
Bob probably would have directed them.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Because I wasn't too sure, but now going to your recent work as directing, and also one thing I forgot to notice, how did you get involved with Bang Zoom Entertainment? Because I know that's a studio that's been there for years too. I mean, you worked on a number of bit of projects like Baki, JoJo Bizarre's Adventure, um, Demon Slayers with Steve Staley directing you. So, and then a number of times, Tony Oliver was directing you in a couple of sessions too. So, how did you get involved with Bang Zoom?
I mean, I was working mostly with Kevin Seymour, and I wanted to get into um directing, and I had so the way to get into directing was to start off adapting scripts, and so I was adapting scripts for Kevin, and he came up with this show, and I mean, I had started working for Bang Zoom. I know Kenshin, we did Kenshin. Um,
Yeah.
and
Cassie was one of the earlier ones.
I was acting for them, and I've probably done a few acting projects for them, and I can't remember if it was Wolf's Rain or what
Well,
the
oh yeah, I love Wolf's Rain. You did an amazing job at Wolf's Rain too. It's like
but
Mary Elizabeth carried you guys so much with her direction. Like you, Mola Marshall, Johnny Young Bosch, Joshua Seth, you guys, Crispin Freeman, you guys did amazing with your roles in Wolf Rings, by the way. I forgot to mention that because Wolf Rings is one of my all-time favorites. Thank you, Kirk.
I can't remember if that's the one that they had asked me to write, and I said,
Hmm.
well, if I write it, I want to direct it, and they said no, we've got Mary directing it. I went, well, and just at the same time, Zoom said, we've got a show, you can write it and direct it, and I went, okay. And so that's when I started working with Bang Zoom. I think it was a show, I think it was called, it was very little known, but I had an incredible cast. Oh my God, I had a brilliant cast. I think it was called Gadgard.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, it's definitely one of those rare anime that not many people talk about. Yeah, yeah, you're right. The cast was stacked, and I'm like, geez, like so many veteran actors that I know of from previous work and other work. It's like it's interesting to see them bunch together in another production because, and one of the special things about being a director or EDR dubbing director, like that's your only opportunity to interact with the actors compared to where it's just you alone with the director, engineer, and sometimes the clients, from Japan and whatnot. So I'm glad that you dug your toes in directing because I'm pretty sure you're the type of guy that will want to interact with other actors and other productions when it comes to anime dubbing.
Yeah, I love
And
working with.
then with working on Baki, I know you played the narrator. Um, as a character actor, what's your takeaway of just giving out a narration for a series like Baki?
Well, I mean, it's not just a Baki because of the fact that it's fighting. The
Yes.
narration is a little bit more animated, um,
Hmm.
kind of big and broad and campy, and so yeah, it's not like just narrating I did when was it? I narrated the Up for Disney, the kids book. And so it was more kind of gentle, but Baki's, kind of big. This
Yeah.
coming up, so and so fighting so and so, and it was a little bigger and broader than just narration. But that led to Yujiro, because there's another one of those roles they just threw into my lap.
Yeah, it's just like when studios like Bang Zoom, Studiopolis, etc. It's like it's just amazing that they know who you are, they know what you're capable of, and they just love working with you anytime they get the chance to work with you and look through your schedule, and then you just own it. And going back, before I end our time together, because I know it's getting pretty late around my time, but going back with Studiopolis again, now with Bleach, now it's another long time series that you've been working on for a very long time. Now, when it first came back in recent years, what was your takeaway? Because I know Bleach was another series that was ongoing, like Naruto and Digimon, where they used a lot of different directors, many of them that direct you on Naruto and Digimon, like Mary, even Jeff directed a little bit. Now, I believe it's just either Ryan directing you, or I think just Ryan or Susie at this point, because I'm pretty sure like they're mainly the two directors involved with any anime related gigs around Studiopolis. So, what was your takeaway when Bleach came back in the sense?
Just surprised, no, just like, oh my God, really? They're bringing. Um, but because and it would run for so long, I thought, God, how
Mhm,
can they have any more of this thing? But
mhm,
no, great show. Always good to go back.
mhm. Yeah, it's just funny because I remember you shared this with Chris 2 years ago when you brought up Digimon. You basically told him it just never goes away. I mean,
Yeah, you
it's,
never.
and that's the beauty thing about the acting world because you figure you're done with a production, and then suddenly years later it comes back, and the same people that contacted you before contact you again and say, "Hey, this character is back, Kirk. We would love to have you back to perform, Kirk. Are you willing to do it?" And you're just right on it, Kirk. And again, I want to conclude and thank you so much for taking your time out your awfully busy schedule. And I'm very, very supportive of how busy you are because it goes to show you how hard and willing and how much you really, really love doing what you're doing, Kirk. And you're doing an absolute fantastic, incredible, wonderful, brilliant job of what you do, Kirk.
Oh, it's nice of you to say that. I really appreciate it. It warms my heart.
You are very welcome. And any tips of you being, do you also do voiceover work? I mean, as a coach, like a teacher per se, or no?
I haven't.
Okay.
And at some point, I'm going to get into it. Ow, 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 ow.
Oh,
Okay.
you okay?
Ugh. Yeah. Okay. There we go.
Oh,
Ouch.
sorry about that,
No,
sir.
it's okay. And no, at some point I will. But when I do it, I want to do it. Um, I want to make sure that what I'm giving is something that no one else out there is giving.
Right.
That and I want it to be structured. Um, when I went to acting school, they had a plan. It was a 3-year program. Every minute of every day had been planned out for a specific reason. Everything they taught us was for a specific reason. And I don't just want to go into it and say, okay, yeah, we're gonna work on these characters today.
Hmm.
And so I want it to have a very definite plan when I do start teaching.
Hmm. Yeah, and my final quick question. Honestly, I'm a huge fan of Digimon. Do you mind if you do a sample of Gabumon, Garurumon, where Garurumon and look Garurumon a little bit, if you can?
All right. I had a
Sorry.
session, did a lot of screaming and died. I don't know how long I was dying, but let's see.
Sorry. Forgive me for this.
Gabumon. Gabumon should be right here, I think. But this is where I think he is. Maybe Marissa would tell me to go deeper with him. So maybe down here. Maybe is it more like here? Is it more down there? Or more up here? I don't know. Anyway, Digimon, no, Gabumon digivolves into Garurumon. and Garurumon's right around here. He's almost like a radio announcer with a little bit of gravel in his voice. And he digivolves to where Garurumon, and where Garurumon lives around here. And then he goes around here, and then to get to Metal Garurumon, he's got to go deeper into Metal Garurumon. And then I don't know where to go from there.
And thank you for that jogged my memory too. Thank you so much for that, Kirk. I appreciate your incredible, vibrant, versatile range, by the way. That's still incredible to this day. Also, there was a scene, this is right, the Digimon movie you did with Susie directing, this is like a couple of years ago.
Huh?
Gabumon changed into this one form where it kind of looked like more like a human. And this is like one of the points where you just use like a typical like an older sounding voice for Gabumon because he sounded like more like a man. He's more human like. Was
Uh-huh.
that like it was just like a one short line. It was like it's a cry for help, basically just sounding more grown up, like grown up version of Gabumon.
Uh-huh.
Was that interesting you for you to do, or was it just like Susie allowed you just to have fun?
I think Susie probably just allowed me to have fun. Just said, to go where you think you should with this.
Yeah, because and I think I want to thank Susie and Ryan for allowing you guys to they trust you because you know these characters a lot more than they do, so they definitely let you hands off and saying like, we believe what you know what you're doing with this character. You can do whatever, and if you had to chime in, we will chime in. So
Yeah, yeah. They're
it
there to
might.
guide us, keep us in the lane.
Mhm. And my final question is, what advice would you give for anybody that want to be an actor and want to pursue voiceover work such as anime, video games, animation, etc., narration, commercials? What would be your advice to them if you're willing to share it?
Yeah, I just say, what a lot of actors say is
Mhm.
study study acting. um, it doesn't matter whether it's acting for on camera, acting for the stage, um, acting for voiceover, um, study voice, study voice and speech. There's a lot of voice and speech classes. They're hard to find. Usually, I think the best voice and speech classes are probably taught at universities, um,
Mhm.
and and study movement for the actor. Study all aspects because you
Yeah.
never know all aspects of acting because you never know where you're going to end up. I never thought I'd end up in voiceover.
Mhm.
So you might start off in voiceover and realize, hey, I think I can do on camera, or you get an opportunity to do on camera, and wow, it turns out that that's where you're meant to be, or you get an opportunity to do a theater play, and you go, oh, holy, I had no idea. This is where I feel at home. So I would say not to try to pigeonhole yourself, especially at first.
Mhm.
You know, learn, study acting and scene development and read whatever books you can about acting and just learn as much as you can about the art and take it from there. And if it turns out that you want to do voiceover and like if that's where you want to be and that's where you should be, but never close your mind off to everything else that's out there, audiobooks and
Right.
digital animation and commercials and there's even loop groups and there's you know I can't remember what it's called, but there's some kind of descriptive thing where you're pretty much narrating the action of a movie for people who are deaf or something. I don't
Mhm.
know, but there's
Yeah.
so many avenues that you can follow that you find fulfillment in that
Mhm.
I wouldn't want to close myself off too much.
Right. So it's just like basically, yeah. So as the views as you watching this, as Kirk is saying that don't close yourself to just one medium voiceover, expand your horizon. Don't just stick on just saying I want to do anime because you never know. There will be special opportunity that you can do that some other actors cannot do. So again, thank you again, Kirk, for your time. I really enjoy your patience. You're a very decent guy. You definitely are very hilarious. Your sense of humor absolutely fantastic and incredible. And again, Kirk, thank you so much for your time, sir. I really, really appreciate this privilege and opportunity just to interview you about your career and how you are as another decent person. Thank you so much, Kirk.
Thank you, Stephen. It was a pleasure talking with you. I had a good time.
Thank you so much. And hopefully, if our paths cross, hopefully I'm able to see you at a convention.
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah, yeah,
All
definitely.
right, Kirk, you have a good night, and I'll definitely touch bases with you in the future.
Okay, thanks, Stephen.
All right, take care, sir.
All right, you too.
Bye.
Bye.